But when you take off that uniform, you're no longer that. You're no longer doing that mission. It's a hard pill to swallow. I went through depression. I'm a part of that 1%, right, to take care of the 99%. You're no longer doing that mission. But just people around me in the neighborhood, and people getting robbed, people stealing, people getting killed, going to jail full time. These are things, man, that I did not want to be a part of. I decided the military was going to be my one and only chance to make it. 20 and a half years, the journey took me to now, retired in 2024. My job was workforce education and development, for short. I was in a position where I was helping develop the training and the vision for how we're going to develop airmen for the next 4 or 5 years, 10, 20 years. I found myself probably in the 8th month where I started to see a shift. I hold pride in knowing that I'm a veteran, and that I used to do that, but now I can do something different.
Let's welcome my guest, Dr. Keith Castille, retired senior enlisted leader in the U.S. Air Force, a George W. Bush stand to veteran leadership program scholar, specializes in human resources, leadership, and talent management. Welcome to the show, sir, and good to see you.
Nice to be here, man.
Let's start with your story, your background, how you joined the Air Force, and what happened to you since then.
I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana, man. Played basketball. There was a lack of opportunity, a lack of mentorship, and lack of guidance. The opportunities that's available for individuals where I'm from is usually either you're selling drugs, you're playing basketball, or you figure life out at a certain point and hoping and wishing that it all comes together. I watched a few things happen in my world, with my family members, with my cousins, with just people around me in the neighborhood, and people getting robbed, people stealing, people getting killed, going to jail full time. I mean, these are things, man, that I did not want to be a part of. And so I decided the military was going to be my one and only chance to make it. Could play basketball, but I felt like that was not, my life was not set up. My family structure was not set up for me to be successful. And so I joined the Air Force. I decided to join the Air Force in 1995. 20 and a half years, man, the journey took me to now, retired in 2024. And I can tell you, I was looking back, now being 30 years, almost 30 years ago, was the best choice I've made for my life. My final rank was E9, Chief Master Sergeant for the Air Force, on the Air Force side, top enlisted rank that you can have. It's pretty cool to serve in that position because, what they say in the Air Force is that we're the top 1%, all right, the top 1%. But truly, what that means to me is that we are now in a position where we impact 99% of the force.
If you can share more stories about that and how you impacted the organization as a whole in that position.
28 and a half years. Now, when I joined the Air Force, I was a Armament Systems Apprentice. So basically, as fancy as the recruiters would tell you, my job was to load bombs on aircraft. Now my job will be a maintainer in the Air Force. And so learn the job of a maintainer, loading aircraft, fighter aircraft, that's where majority of my time was spent on fighter aircraft. The jobs that we have in the Air Force is so important for the missions that we're going to do to keep America safe, keep our partners safe, keep our interests, protected. And I would tell you that knowing how important that was, it became a point to where I got focused on the education aspect. And so education became one of my biggest things. All right. So it's like being a weapons guy, I worked in jobs to where I was helping teach others how to be better loaders, how to be better trainers, and how to be better maintainers. And so I fell in love with that side of the world. And so early on in my career, I find myself moving to jobs and positions where I'm able to educate, train, and develop. And so as I got to my 10th year in the Air Force, I got an opportunity to be an instructor. And so that's a professional military educator. And so I went to Germany. I was stationed in Capone Air Base, Germany. And that's what I did for 4 years. My job was to train leaders on how to be better leaders in the Air Force. I said to say this is that when I ended my career or retired, prior to retiring, my last 3.5, 4 years was at the Pentagon. My job was workforce education and development. For short, I was in a position where I was helping develop the training and the vision for how we're going to develop airmen for, the next 4 or 5 years, 10, 20 years. And so workforce education was my bread and butter. I moved into areas where I was doing transformation, so helping build the evaluation system, our annual appraisers, if you will, on how we're tracking what we do per year, how that leads to advancement and promotion, and also how that leads to more leadership roles. So you can be able to be in positions where you're developing training and leading other airmen, other missions or organizations, bigger organizations as you grow through the force. I feel that I was able to impact the force by one, a consistency of learning, training, and education, but also having a passion for development. And so my last job that led to my last job being selected for a highly coveted position was having that pedigree and having that consistency through the years. And so I believe I was able to get the Air Force to look at a new way of developing, which even I'm seeing after a year and a half of being retired, where I see the Air Force is doing some pretty cool things that has my, if you will, my footprint or my handprint on it. And the teams that we all come together and build, I still see many different capsules, if you will, of that, throughout the force today, which I'm excited about because you always want to make things better. And I felt that through my time I made the Air Force better, or I put us in a position where other individuals were able to continue on that great work.
How hard was it for you to transition out of the military, especially after so many years? Did you face any challenges, or was it hard mentally?
There's a lot of things I did not know, a lot of things I did not see, learn, touch. And then here it is as a young individual, 18 years old, joining with very little world experience, barely been outside my city. And now I'm part of this big organization, taught me a whole lot, and, have enriched my life. I did that for 28 and a half years. That's all I knew. Right. And I love what the new things I've learned. I love what it allowed me and my family to do and to what I've become. But when you take off that uniform, you're no longer that. We talked about the fact that I'm a part of that 1%, right? To take care of the 99%, but you're no longer doing that mission. You're no longer doing, the stuff that you were paid to do for 28 and a half years. So the first thing is a shock that I'm not part, if you will, of the fraternity. I'm not part of that organization, that's forward facing now. I'm still a member, but I'm not a member per se that's doing the business anymore. And it's a hard pill to swallow. The first things you feel is anxiety. You feel, for me, I went through depression. One, because I'm in a position, and I'm in a leadership role where many people look to me. And then when that transition happens, the force is created and built for where the mission continues. People continue to do the work because you've done your job. But your phone doesn't necessarily ring like it used to. I used to look at my phone and have 20 messages, like every hour. And being retired and no longer in a position that, you start to see that then dwindles down. Even like yesterday, right? And I had a very calm day. A year and a half later, I barely get text messages, from the individuals I was serving. And that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, I still have large amount of, acquaintances and friendships and all that still is there. But you realize that the mission and what you were doing is no longer that. And so it was hard. I went on a few job interviews, and I realized that the Air Force has equipped me with a lot of skills, with a lot of perseverance and patience, where I can do something on my own. And that's the reason why I started my own business consulting company. But it was hard in the beginning, transitioning, because my mindset was structured to be in this one thing. And now I have to do something different. And that is a very uncomfortable place to be. But luckily, I have a good network of friends, good, company that I'm surrounded by. I have my wife, I have my immediate family who, man, they tethered to me and made me feel as if I was the most important person doing that transition. And man, I found myself probably in the 8th month where I started to see a shift, where I got more comfortable and started to see myself conquering the world as a civilian versus as a active military member. I hold pride in knowing that I'm a veteran and that I used to do that, but now I can do something different, but still be part of the organization in a different capacity.
What do you think you can take away from the military and apply to the civilian world?
I've seen some amazing people. I've seen some amazing work. And so when I compare it to what I see on the outside, I know that if there is a veteran or someone who has served, and the attributes or the characteristics they have are amazing, right? They're going to do things with integrity. They're going to do things with excellence. They're going to do things according to the values in which they have been grown into in service. $1 billion aircraft, $1 billion systems, and you're doing things around the world to keep people safe. The fact that people of caliber of what, I've witnessed us doing can now bring that to a civilian sector, can now bring that to a world where we can make organizations so much better. There are people that is going to make your organization 100 times better because they have the acumen of a warrior. They have the acumen of seeing things through all the way.
Maybe give some advice to people who want to hire veterans, but they don't know what to expect, or they are a little bit reluctant.
Part of my research project in the Scholar program was something I created called IDB, which is identity and belonging. Individuals need to find a place to where they feel that they have identity, they are valued, and that they belong. And so as veterans, we need to be looking for positions and roles where we fit, where we're going to get that same feeling we may have felt, in our previous jobs. Or go to a place to where your talents, abilities, and also purpose will mean something here in your head and in your heart. An employer has to make sure that we're not just hiring because they are a veteran. It's all about matching. Sometimes that cubicle is just too small for the way you're thinking. So find the right fit. Now, some people are up for some major challenges, right? We can transition, we can transfer skills, we can upskill, but you also need those repetitions. So give yourself some grace. Don't lean on the fact that you were in the military or you were doing something previously, because what you've done before may not get you where you want to be. And maybe all those skills and attributes won't be the best thing for what you are going to be in the position of doing at that particular time. Give that individual feedback, because they've been in positions where they so many times, right, in the jobs that we've served in, we get feedback instantly. From me being a bomb loader, there are things that's going to tell me that bomb works. But no, going to a job where there's no feedback and you're just doing a function, it's a little different, right? So having those one-on-one conversations, having those touch points is critical for a person that's transitioning.
And for veterans listening, maybe the ones who are struggling to find a job, maybe you have some advice for people like that.
You must network. Your resume is important, but nothing beats someone walking into a room and speaking for you on your behalf. People value that. Companies, organizations value that. Getting into the doors is going to be crucial. Meet new people, leverage LinkedIn or any one of these social platforms where you're connecting with an audience, you're connecting with people. Focus on the genuine, non-transactional connection. If you're only looking for a job and you're only connecting with people just for them to do something, people will see that and feel that right away. But if you're going to do a cold call, you're going to do a cold connect, don't walk in there with a transactional mindset. Walk in there and be curious. Because if you show genuine curiosity to what you're looking for, then you're going to create a connection with that person who's possibly looking for an individual like you. Last thing is be able to speak to what you're able to do and speak on yourself in less than a minute. War stories don't matter on the other side of the world, right? But what you did matter. But people want to know is how can you impact their organization and what can you bring to their organization and what you're trying to do. So be able to do that in a very quick format, succinct, and have some brevity.
Yeah, young people, do you have some advice that you want to share with them?
It's not where you're at, it's where you want to be. I don't care how bad the circumstances are, um, how bad situations can be. That there's always a way out. There's always an opportunity. Find a veteran. Find someone who has served. Find someone who has walked the walk. And this doesn't have to be an individual who has worn a uniform. but find someone that has the knowledge of just the world and be able to be curious. Then you're going to walk into a conversation, you're going to walk into an opportunity where you're open to learn and you're willing to learn. And so you will learn. That's going to be key for younger individuals who's looking for opportunities or find themselves in places and spaces where they don't feel that there's a way out. If I can do it with very little resources, very little help along the way before, as an 18-year-old trying to figure it out, and just taking a chance and joining the military, which is something I never thought I would do. And to serve 28 and a half years was the best decision I've made. This young individual who's looking at, well, maybe going into IT or going into a trade skill, you know, being curious about it, 28 and a half years, 30 years from now, they look back and say, it was the best decision I made because I was curious. So just remain curious. And I would say start now with meeting people that are different than you. So up to the age that you are now, whether let's say you're 25 years old and going through life, you've probably built a circle around you that looks like you, that thinks like you, and that are so focused on being part of that in-group. I would say take yourself out of that in-group and go look for some different groups, because people that are thinking differently, people that have walked in different spaces, at different times, they're going to offer a perspective that will help you grow. And if you stay where you're at, you're probably not going to expand as much as you want to. And still maintain that in-group you have, but still find yourself looking for other opportunities from the other in-groups, and you'll see where your aperture for the world is much larger. And you'll find yourself more prone to be successful in different spaces versus only one that you've probably seen at your time growing up or your time you're at now.